We have huge updates on a stimulus package that Biden wants to send immediately. Let's discuss the details in this video. This is your Thursday, November 19th stimulus check updates and stimulus package updates. We'll also cover breaking news updates from Trump's legal team regarding the election. They held a press conference today outlining their strategy. Do you think Trump should concede? Let me know in the comments below. Welcome back to my channel. My name's Andrew and thank you for taking the time to watch my videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for updates daily. Okay, we're going to discuss the details of a stimulus package in just a few minutes, but first we're going to cover what Trump's legal team said today. And guys, I always try to be unbiased on this channel, so I'm also going to show you what other mainstream media had to say as well. Okay, let's watch Trump's legal team and what they had to say today.
And thank you very much for coming. This is representative of our legal team. We're representing President Trump and we're representing the Trump campaign. When I finish, Sidney Powell and then Jenna Ellis will follow me, and we will present in brief the evidence that we've collected over the last, I guess it is 2 weeks. Also, Joseph Genever, Victoria Tenzing are here with me. There are a lot more lawyers working on this, but we're the senior lawyers.
So this is huge. Giuliani claims he is about to present actual evidence of voter fraud. This has been the main issue because most judges and mainstream media has said that they have a lot of witnesses making allegations, but no actual evidence. So let's see what Giuliani has to say specifically regarding evidence.
And Boris Epstein. So, I guess the best way to describe this is when we began our representation of the president, we certainly were confronted with a very anomalous set of results. The president way ahead on election night, 700,000 or 800,000 in Pennsylvania. Somehow he lost Pennsylvania. We have statisticians willing to testify.
So this has been a main message that the Trump's administration has been sending. They were winning greatly on election night, and over the next 2 to 3 days, Biden caught up and ended up winning the election. Now, do you guys agree with Trump's team that this is potentially a sign of fraud, or do you disagree and just think this is because the mail-in votes were being counted over the next couple of days? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.
But that's almost statistically impossible to have happened in the period of time that it happened. But of course, that's just speculation. As we started investigating, both our investigations and the very patriotic and brave American citizens that have come forward are extraordinary. Extraordinary number of people, extraordinary number of witnesses. And what emerged very quickly is there's not a singular voter fraud in one state. This pattern repeats itself in a number of states. Almost exactly the same pattern, which to any experienced investigator, prosecutor, would suggest that there was a plan from a centralized place to execute these various acts of voter fraud, specifically focused on big cities, and specifically focused on, as you would imagine, big cities controlled by Democrats, and particularly focused on big cities that have a long history of corruption.
Wow, that is a huge statement from Giuliani. He said centralized source. He is essentially alleging that there is a centralized source that is planning all of this fraud, saying that there was massive nationwide voter fraud that was planned ahead of time by essentially a team of people who coordinated all of this. Guys, do you think these statements are valid, or do you think they're a little outlandish? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. In any case, he claims to see a pattern in multiple big cities. Of course, big cities tend to vote Democrat already. So let's see what the evidence is. Let's watch the video.
The number of voter fraud cases in Philadelphia could fill a library. Just a few weeks ago, there was a conviction for voter fraud, and 1-2 weeks before that. And I've often said, I guess sarcastically, but it's true, the only surprise I would have found in this is if Philadelphia hadn't cheated in this election. because for the last 60 years, they've cheated in just about every single election. You could say the same thing about Detroit. Each one of these cities are cities that are controlled by Democrats, which means they can get away with anything they want to do. It means they have a certain degree of control over, certainly control the election board completely, and they control law enforcement, and unfortunately, they have some friendly judges that will issue ridiculously irrational opinions just to come out in their favor. So let's start with the specifics. Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, the margin of victory now for Biden, which is not a victory, it's a fraud, is 69,140 votes. The reality is that we are now at a count of 682,770 ballots, for which we have affidavits that there was no inspection of that ballot at the time that it was entered in the vote. It was a mail ballot. Mail ballots are particularly prone to fraud. We were warned about that by Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter, and Secretary Baker in a report about a dozen years ago, in which they said that mail balloting is particularly susceptible of fraud, that we should very carefully consider ever doing it, and that it can be taken advantage of. Justice Souter warned us of the same thing.
Okay, so Giuliani is using a tactic where you reference a figurehead who is credible in the space and tells you something so you can agree with them. So he is saying that a previous president has warned us before that mail-in ballots are rampant with voter fraud, and using this former president as a way of kind of accrediting what they're currently saying. Now, do you guys agree with that statement that mail-in votes are more likely to be full of voter fraud? Let me know in the comments below. Or do you disagree? Now, again, we have to look at specific evidence that's been presented. Giuliani just said that there has been witnesses making statements that these ballots were not checked for being legitimate before they were put in. Again, that is not evidence. Those are more allegations. So let's keep watching to see if they present actual hard evidence.
Comment in an election law case, and even the New York Times wrote articles about how dangerous mail-in voting was. And this is the first time we ever did it en masse, and I think we proved that all three are prophets. It's not only susceptible to fraud, it is easily susceptible to fraud, particularly if you have a plan or scheme which sounds eerily similar to what Joe Biden told us a few days before the election, that he had the best voter fraud team in the world. Well, they were good. I don't know that they were that good because they made significant mistakes, like all crooks do, and we caught them. One of them was pushing out Republican inspectors. Every state, almost every civilized country, even Tanzania and places you wouldn't think of, have rules about inspectors, particularly for mail-in ballots. And why particularly for mail-in ballots? Because they can more easily be defrauded, and you can't check on it. People who have never done a mail-in ballot, I'm going to show you why it's so easy. Well, you fill out an envelope.
Okay, this has been a central argument from Trump's campaign, that their inspectors were not allowed to be close enough and watch these ballots being authenticated. Again, these are allegations, but not proof. So let's see what Giuliani says and see if he provides actual proof that these ballots were fraudulent. Just saying that your inspectors were not allowed to witness this does not necessarily prove or show evidence of fraudulent ballots.
Like this. You put usually in New York it would be your assembly district and the precinct in which you're voting. You fill out your name and your address, and you sign it. You then use an inner envelope and you put the ballot inside the inner envelope. You seal it all and you send it in. When it's being counted, almost invariably in the United States, up until the mass cheating that went on in this election, a Republican and a Democrat inspector, as well as others, if there are other parties, is allowed to watch the unsealing of this ballot. It used to go on all over America when we conducted honest elections. Because the only time you can ever find out if it's a fraudulent ballot is when it is looked at. The minute you approve this, it's thrown away, gone for eternity. The only thing left is the vote. That could have been Mickey Mouse. That could have been a dead person. That could have been not filled out properly. That could have been the same person 30 times. That could have been, and all these things have happened, by the way. That could have been nothing filled out. We never know. So, for example, the recount being done in Georgia will tell us nothing, because these fraudulent ballots will just be counted again because they wouldn't supply the signatures to match the ballot.
Okay, so they're alleging that these ballots were not validated properly. Now, do you guys think that actually happened? Let me know in the comments below. In any case, at this point, he's still going on. Essentially, this is a he said, she said situation. And if they want to certify these votes as fraudulent, they need actual evidence. So I'm hoping he's going to continue talking and give us evidence. Let's see what he has to say.
So it means nothing to have counted these ballots because, for example, in Pennsylvania, where we have probably our most precise evidence, 682,770 of these ballots were cast, put in, and they weren't inspected, which renders them ballots that are null and void. Cannot be.
Again, is there proof of them not being inspected, or is it still just an allegation? Let's see what he has to say.
Counted, have to be removed from the vote. Why? For several reasons, not the least of which is that was basically only one of two places in the state where it was done. So in the other parts of the state, there was a legitimate inspection of the ballots. So if you have two different standards in different parts of the state, one favoring one part of the state, the other disfavoring the other part of the state, that's a classic violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution.
Now, at its core here, there is an argument where Trump's campaign wants to have these votes thrown out. Now, Democrats and other constituents are arguing that you will essentially be throwing out millions of Americans' votes. And they are saying that is not okay, and that will disenfranchise voters. Now, do you guys agree with that, or do you disagree? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, let's keep watching for actual evidence, because that is what Giuliani said he was going to deliver in this press conference, actual evidence.
Bush v. Gore being the most recent case that teaches that. That's not the only fraud that went on in Pennsylvania. All of the other frauds carried out in the other states by the Democrat bosses happened there as well. For example, if you made a mistake in that ballot and you lived in Philadelphia or in Pittsburgh, you were allowed to fix the mistake. But if you lived in what would be considered more Republican or Trump parts of the state, you were given no such right. One of our plaintiffs, Mr. Henry, cast a absentee ballot, and he failed to put it in the secure envelope inside. He just put it in open, naked. That ballot was cast aside because it was invalid, because that breaks the privacy of the vote. In Pittsburgh and in Philadelphia, if they noticed that there wasn't an inner envelope, they'd contact the voter and allow him to vote again. Or if he didn't fill it out completely, or if he made a mistake and didn't sign his full name, he was allowed to cure it. There is no such provision under the law of Pennsylvania.
Okay, let me jump in here and just make a couple of comments on that statement. Now, I just want to say, if there was a discrimination between Republican and Democratic areas where they helped Democrats fix their votes and they didn't help Republicans, yes, that is not okay, and that is definitely an issue. But can they prove that actually happened? Can they prove it with evidence? Now, let's keep watching and see if they have actual evidence.
The Democrat Secretary of State made that up in order to maximize the votes in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and to minimize the votes in the other parts of the state. Clearly illegal, clearly voter fraud, easily provable, hundreds of witnesses, maybe thousands.
Okay, witnesses is one thing, but in the court of law, you will need more than witnesses to overturn these votes and overturn these election results.
We have, to give you another example, we have 17,000 provisional ballots cast in Pittsburgh. Do you know what a provisional ballot is? Provisional ballot usually happens this way, and about 15 of the 17,000 happen this way. You walk in and you say, I'm here to vote today. Oh, Mr. Giuliani, you already voted. I did? I don't remember voting. Oh, yes, you cast an absentee ballot. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. So why does that happen 17,000 times in Pittsburgh? People walked in thinking actually 15,000 to be precise. Why did it happen 15,000 times that people in Pittsburgh walked in to vote and they had already voted according to the Democrat election machine? Did they forget?
Now, I will have to say here, this does seem like a legitimate issue. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this is an issue, or do you think this is just a small, random instance of an inefficiency in the election process? That's the question here. Is this a normal inefficiency in the election process that happens every cycle, or is this an abnormality that actually affected the outcome of the results? Now, experts say that it didn't. This would have to have had affected hundreds of thousands of votes to change the outcome. But let's keep listening and see what Giuliani had to say.
People with bad memories in Pittsburgh? Or is the following correct? That as witnesses will testify, they were instructed by the Democrat bosses when they had a ballot in which there was no one registered, just assign it to somebody. Just assign it to Rudy Giuliani. So when maybe Rudy Giuliani won't show up to vote. And if he does show up to vote, we'll give him a provisional ballot. That is what we call circumstantial evidence of the fraud. The direct evidence of the fraud of the people who will testify that, in fact, that's what happened to them. As well as the 50 to 60 witnesses we have for the way they were treated.
Okay, that is a huge allegation and his first piece of potential actual evidence. He is saying that Democrats took ballots, filled them out for Biden, and then if the actual voter ended up showing up on election day, they said, oh, this was just an accident. Here's your ballot. Go ahead and vote. Wow. Guys, that is a huge allegation, and again, would have to have been done at a massive scale to change the outcome of the election. So he is saying that these ballots are circumstantial evidence of the fact that Democrats did this. This one will be really interesting to see what the judges have to say in court about it.
And not allowed to inspect the ballots. They weren't just not allowed to do it. They were pushed. A few cases they were assaulted. In all cases, they were put in a corral so far away, probably the closest they got is from here to the back of that room. We could do like did you all watch My Cousin Vinny? You know the movie? It's one of my favorite law movies because he comes from Brooklyn. And when the nice lady who said she saw, and then he says to her, how many fingers do I got up? And she says, 3. Well, she was too far away to see it was only 2. These people were further away than my cousin Vinny was from the witness. They couldn't see a thing. Now, I don't know. You're going to tell me that 60 people are lying? They didn't just tell me this. They swore under penalty of perjury, which is something no Democrat's ever done. You don't even ask Biden about this. You don't put him under penalty of perjury. He doesn't even get asked questions about it.
Giuliani's pointing out the fact that Republicans continue to say that the media treats Trump unfairly and is very light and easy on Biden. Guys, do you agree with that statement? Let me know in the comments below. And don't worry, in just a few minutes, I will show you what other mainstream media are saying about these comments.
He doesn't get asked questions about all the evidence of the crimes that he committed. These people are under penalty of perjury. Their names are on an affidavit. They swear that they weren't allowed to carry out their function as inspectors. And it's not just a technical thing. There's a reason they did it. Why would you not allow people to carry out the function they've been allowed to do for 50 years, 60 years? Why wouldn't you allow inspections of those ballots? Because you knew you were going to use those ballots to catch Biden up. And you had a big road ahead of you. You had to catch him up for 700,000 to 800,000 votes that he was behind. And the only way...
Again, Giuliani is focusing on witness testimonies and needs to have actual proof. He is saying that these ballots being filled out without being properly vetted is the evidence. I'm not sure if the judges will agree with that, guys. Do you guys agree? Let me know in the comments below. In any case, most judges across the country have said that the distance of the overwatchers of the votes was fine, and they did not find any huge issues with that. And just in a few minutes, I will go deeper into these lawsuits specifically, and which lawsuits are still up in court, and which ones have been shot down by judges already.
We're going to do it with the mail-in ballots. You couldn't have a Democrat and Republican inspector around. They don't even have Democrats watching it, because they'd be afraid that there'd be honest Democrats who would say, "You're cheating." So that takes us to Michigan, where there was an honest Democrat who said they were cheating. And we'll show you her affidavit, because I know you keep reporting falsely that we have no evidence, that we have no specific acts of fraud. That's because the coverage of this has been almost as dishonest as the scheme itself. The American people are entitled to know this. You don't have a right to keep it from them. I mean, you don't report to them that a citizen of this country, a very fine woman, who was willing to allow me to give you her name. I can't give you all these affidavits, because if I do, these people will be harassed. They'll be threatened. They may lose their job. They will lose their friends. We've lost lawyers in this case because they've been threatened. We've had lawyers that need protection. What's going on in this country is horrible, and the censorship that you're imposing is making it worse. But Jesse Jacob is an adult citizen and a resident of the state of Michigan. She's been an employee of the city of Detroit for decades. I know her age, but she can tell you her age. She was assigned to voting duties in September, and she was trained by the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan. She's basically trained to cheat. She said that I was instructed.
Wow, that was a huge allegation. Giuliani just said that an election official was trained by Democratic state and local workers to cheat. Wow, let's see what he has to say.
My supervisor to adjust the mailing date of these absentee ballot packages to be dated earlier than when they were actually sent in.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, guys. That is a huge allegation. So as you all know, these mail-in ballots have deadlines, and there is a woman who is saying that the state and local governments trained her and told her to alter the dates of these mail-in ballots in order to allow them to count them. Oh my God, guys. Again, they need evidence of this. If there's evidence, this would be huge. But let's see if he says they actually have evidence. Now, do you believe Giuliani? Let me know in the comments if you believe him or not.
The supervisor made that announcement for all workers to engage in that fraudulent practice. That's not me saying that. That's just American citizens saying that under oath. I don't know. Maybe you could say she's lying, but you can't say there's no evidence. This is what we call evidence. This is direct evidence, not circumstantial. I tried many, many cases, as did all my colleagues.
Now, I'm not a legal expert here, guys. I'm just some person on YouTube trying to give you the news and give you updates and give you unbiased updates. But I don't think a witness statement is necessarily considered evidence. Do you guys think that's enough evidence to prove that this fraud actually occurred? Let me know in the comments below. I would say an actual hard evidence would be like a recording of a government official telling her to do this, or a video recording of someone actually changing these dates. Because at this point, it still seems to be a he said, she said type of situation. But let's keep watching and see if he continues to try and give actual evidence.
You put a witness on a witness stand, the witness is testifying to their own knowledge. This witness goes on the witness stand and she will say, I was told to adjust the date on the absentee ballots. I witnessed election workers and employees going over to the voting booths with voters in order to watch them vote and coach them for whom to vote. Completely illegal. She will testify to that. I don't know, Biden's people can cross-examine her, but you can't just throw it away. Gee, there's no evidence. Next time you say that, you'll be lying. Because there is evidence. By the way, this is public. You can all get it. It's attached to the complaint in Costantino versus the city of Detroit. Then she was instructed by my supervisor not to ask for a driver's license or any photo ID when a person was trying to vote. Don't ask for identification. Why would you not ask for identification? Because you knew that a lot of people not entitled to vote were going to come in and early vote. Because you knew that illegal immigrants were going to be allowed to vote. You knew, if you lived in Philadelphia, unless you're stunad, that's an Italian expression for stupid. Unless you're stupid, you knew that a lot of people were coming over from Camden to vote. They do every year. Happens all the time in Philly. It's about as frequent as getting beaten up at a Philadelphia Eagle football game. Happens all the time. All the time. And it's allowed to happen because it is a Democrat, corrupt city. And has been for years. Many, many years. And they carried it out in places they could get away with it. They didn't carry it out in neutral places. They didn't carry it out in Republican places. They didn't carry it out where the law is respected. They carry it out in a corrupt city where the district attorney releases criminals en masse, which is why it has so much crime.
This is a theme of Trump's campaign and Trump's team. They say that Democratic cities are crime cities and corrupt cities. Those are strong comments, guys. You guys, let me know what you think about that. Do you agree with that or do you disagree? And do you truly think there was fraud in these cities to the extent that could change the outcome of this election? So far, Giuliani continues to give witness statements, but no physical evidence. We're going to keep watching. We've got just a few minutes here, and then I'm going to show you what other media had to say as well. And don't worry, right after that, we will jump into a stimulus update.
Also said, I observed a large number of people who came to the satellite location to vote in person, but they had already applied for and submitted an absentee ballot. So she observed a lot of people voting twice. In two places in Wisconsin. Didn't happen in northern Wisconsin. Didn't happen in Republican Wisconsin. Didn't happen in neutral Wisconsin, where there are an equal number of Republicans and Democrats. It happened in a place where the vote was 75, 80% for the Democrat. You take away.
Okay, so here's the deal. Republicans will say, hey, this fraud happened in Democratic areas because those Democrats are there and they are the cheaters and they are corrupt. Now, Democrats would say, of course Republicans are saying that there was fraud in Democratic areas because that is where we get most of our votes and that is what they want to discredit. Guys, which side do you agree with? Let me know in the comments.
A number of those, and that 20,000 lead disappears. In other words, if you count the lawful votes, Trump won Wisconsin by a good margin. Indeed, if you count the lawful votes in Pennsylvania, he won it by about 300,000 votes. Also, in the lawsuit filed in Wisconsin, which is really a petition because of their procedures, there were no inspectors provided for the count of the illegal ballots. There were numerous backdated ballots. We're just counting them now, run over into the thousands. And there were many precincts in which there was an overvote. Now, let me explain to you what an overvote is, which is something you should have explained to the American people, because it's about the clearest circumstantial evidence of massive fraud that you can have. An overvote is if 200% of the people who are registered in a district vote. Think about that. 200% of the registered voters in a district vote. What does that mean? That means somebody voted twice. That means somebody who's not entitled to vote voted, an illegal, a person from another city or state.
Okay, that's an interesting thought. They're saying that some counties had way more actual votes than people who are registered to vote in that county. Again, that would be an issue if it's true, and if it is true, I'm sure they will eventually be able to prove it. That might be something you see come up in the courts, because that sounds like something that could be proven if indeed it did happen. It's something that won't just stay in a he said, she said situation. If more people voted than were registered, that will come to light, and that will be proven.
A person who's not registered. But what it means is that those are illegitimate votes. You don't have an overvote of 200% or 300%. You don't have an overvote of 100%. Most precincts don't have 100% turnout. In fact, mission from the people, but in the materials I have here, there are at least 10 that come from citizens. We have 1,000 at least, and we're getting more every day. And there are other aspects of this fraud that at this point, I really can't reveal. This is really enough. It's enough to overturn any election. It's disgraceful what happened. And I'll conclude by asking you to just think about this for a minute. What happened?
Okay, let me know if I sound a little biased here. But he said we have more evidence of fraud and even better evidence of fraud, but we cannot show it at this time. Now, do you think there's a good reason as to why they wouldn't be able to present that now? Or do you think he's blowing smoke and does not have any good evidence? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Honestly, it feels a little bit like blowing smoke to me, and throughout this whole video, he's continued to give witness testimonials, but no physical evidence of actual fraud. There has been some issues. There's been some things like the too many votes in one district. Completely sounds like it could be legitimate and could be proven. But again, will it be enough to overturn the outcome of the election? Let me know your thoughts if you think it will be.
Morning of November 3rd, when they were going to count this new kind of ballot, this mail-in ballot. Did every Democrat leader in Pennsylvania and in Michigan and in Wisconsin and in Georgia and in Nevada and in Arizona, they all wake up and all separately have the same idea? Did they all separately have the idea that we're going to put Republican inspectors in pens? We're not going to let them look at mail-in or absentee ballots? They all independently come up with that. Like, just by coincidence. They say, hey, we're going to put the Republicans in pens and corral.
So Giuliani's alluding to the fact that he thinks there is a centralized body, a team of people who coordinated this nationwide mass-level voter fraud, and they had systems and plans put in place to do this and coordinated amongst multiple states. That is a huge allegation. Do you guys think that's possible? Let me know in the comments. Again, still no proof, more allegations. And wow, Giuliani's really sweating through this conference. I don't know if you guys see, but on the left side of his face, his makeup is actually like dripping down his face.
We're going to do it in Pittsburgh. We're going to do it in Philadelphia. We're going to do it in Detroit. We're going to do it in Milwaukee. We're going to do it in Las Vegas. We're going to do it in Phoenix. What did I miss? Oh, we're going to do it in Atlanta. Or isn't the logical conclusion that I think any jury would accept if they heard this evidence that somebody had this plan. Maybe that was always the plan, to do this very, very questionable form of voting, which has been criticized by President Carter, by Secretary Baker, by most experts on election reform. I think the logical conclusion is this is a common plan, a common scheme. It comes right directly from the Democrat Party, and it comes from the candidate. Clearly. That's the reason why Hillary Clinton said, don't concede, even if you're losing. That's the reason we had a Freudian slip by the candidate.
Oh my goodness. He essentially just accused Hillary Clinton of being in on this plan for voter fraud. Did you hear that? Because before the election, Hillary Clinton said, Biden, do not concede on the night of the election no matter what, because these votes will not be fully counted for a few days. And of course, everyone fully expected the majority of the mail-in votes to be for Biden. But Giuliani is saying that those words from Clinton are essentially proof and a Freudian slip as to how she knew that Biden was going to win no matter what, because they were going to fraudulently add extra ballots for Biden. Wow, guys, that is a huge allegation, and he is throwing Hillary Clinton into this mess. What do you guys think of that? Do you believe Giuliani, or do you not believe him? Let me know in the comments below. But in any case, it is crazy that he is throwing Hillary Clinton's name into this mess.
And he said he had the best voter fraud team in the country. That's the reason why he probably didn't have to go out and campaign. He had to have known what they were going to do. This had to be planned in advance. I'm kind of checking, did they go, to the same contractor to get the corrals to put the Republicans in? And this is a disgraceful thing that was done in this country. Probably not much more disgraceful than the things these people did in office, which you didn't and don't bother to cover, and you conceal from the American people. But we let this happen. We use largely a Venezuelan voting machine, in essence, to count our vote. We let this happen, we're going to become Venezuela. We cannot let this happen to us. We cannot not allow these crooks, because that's what they are, to steal an election from the American people. They elected Donald Trump. They didn't elect Joe Biden. Joe Biden is in the lead because of the fraudulent ballots, the illegal ballots that were produced and that were allowed to be used after the election was over. Give us an opportunity to prove it in court, and we will. Now I'm going to ask...
Wow, those are huge allegations from Giuliani. He is essentially saying that Trump won this election and Biden lost, and the only reason it looks like Biden won is because of this fraud. Now, throughout this interview, Giuliani said he would include evidence, actual hard evidence, of mass-scale voter fraud in this election. Now, you've watched this video. Tell me your opinion. Did he provide hard evidence? Because it seems like he mostly just kept providing witness testimonials. Now, of course, a witness testimonial is a level of evidence. It is when dozens of people or hundreds of people tell you, hey, this is what I saw, that raises some flags for concern. But you have to take it a step further and show physical evidence. And I truly personally believe if there was voter fraud in this election, it will come to light. Okay? Now let's take a look and see what other media outlets had to say as well regarding Trump's legal team's statements.
A lot of lawsuits, but no big wins for the Trump campaign so far in a long-shot legal battle that extends across 6 swing states. The campaign and Republican allies have filed at least 30 court challenges. NBC News tracking all of them, finding 19 of those cases have been denied, dismissed, settled, or withdrawn.
Wow. Trump's team has filed 30 court challenges, and almost 2/3 of those have been thrown out, either completely denied by judges, dismissed by the courtrooms, or withdrawn by Trump's team. What do you guys think of that? Let me know in the comments below. Do you think things look bad for Trump, or do you think that he still has some hope in overturning the results of this election?
In at least 3 cases, it's because judges found the president's allies failed to provide facts or evidence to back up their claims.
This is the major issue that most media outlets are saying, that Trump's team has not had any hard evidence to prove these lawsuits. Now, so far, a handful of these lawsuits have already been thrown out because of a lack of evidence, but Trump's team continues to say that they do have evidence that they will continue to provide, and that they have thousands of eyewitness testimonials saying that there was, in fact, a large-scale voter fraud.
Trump is absolutely right to fight for election integrity. And let's be clear, this is not about politics. This is not about campaigning. This is about the law.
The president's campaign has the right to file challenges under the law, like pursuing litigation and asking for recounts. But his attorneys are alleging a nationwide conspiracy that doesn't exist. Rudy Giuliani, leading the president's team.
So as you see, they just said they are alleging a large-scale voter fraud that doesn't exist. Guys, do you agree with that statement? Let me know in the comments, because most mainstream media are saying that there is no existence of evidence for large-scale voter fraud, and that Trump's team is just using biased witness testimonials to push this narrative and just to continue to badmouth Biden and just use this basically as leverage to either create his own media company or run again in 2024. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. And don't worry, we will get to stimulus in just a minute.
Its push in Pennsylvania, arguing to toss out hundreds of thousands of ballots and ultimately stop the Commonwealth from certifying its election results, he said.
See, that's the issue, guys. They would have to throw out hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of votes in order to get this done. Now, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like it's right to have hundreds of thousands of votes thrown out? Now, I'm sure if you think they're fraudulent, you want them thrown out. And I agree with that statement. But they need to be proven to be fraudulent. You cannot throw a ballot out unless it's been proven to be fraudulent. And unfortunately, if you're making allegations of fraudulent votes, it is up to you and up to Trump's team to prove that they are fraudulent.
Because of fraud, telling a federal judge this week this is not an isolated case, but one repeated in at least 10 other jurisdictions. The judge, sharply critical, told Giuliani, at bottom, you're asking this court to invalidate more than 6.8 million votes, thereby disenfranchising every single voter in Pennsylvania.
Oh my goodness. See, this is exactly the issue that a lot of judges are bringing up. This judge said, you're asking the court to invalidate 6.8 million votes, which would disenfranchise every single one of these voters. Guys, do you agree with these comments? Let me know in the comments below. 6.8 million votes would be a ton of votes to throw out. And again, these judges can be biased as well. These judges are always appointed by either a Republican or a Democratic president. So we don't know. This could very well be a Democratic judge, or I'm not sure. It could be a Republican judge. Honestly, I'm not sure.
The lawyer opposing Giuliani in court telling CNN.
The judge, who's a very good judge, just asked, you keep talking about fraud, but I don't see this in the complaint. And eventually, Mr. Giuliani said, you're right. We don't have fraud in the complaint. We're not talking about fraud.
Opponents point out there's no evidence of intentional misconduct, and even Pennsylvania's Republican senator sounds skeptical.
That key word, intentional, is a huge part of this issue, guys. Whether this was intentional acts to create voter fraud, or if this was just a regular inefficiency of the election process. Guys, I know this is scary to say, but in every election, there is some level of inefficiency and some level of inaccuracy. Now, the question is, was this enough to change the outcome of the election? And was this intentional? Guys, do you think this was intentional? Let me know in the comments below. Or do you think Trump should just concede?
I don't think they have a strong case.
The president still plans to fight for now, probably well into December, even as his allies nudge him to acknowledge and accept his loss in the presidential race, according to multiple sources familiar with the discussions. One senior administration official telling NBC News those close to the president know the legal challenges will continue, but understand they're futile.
I view that the vast majority of Republicans are embarrassed by what Donald Trump is doing.
It's a strong statement as well. Now let me know, if you are Republican, do you feel embarrassed by this, by Trump's actions, or do you agree with Trump and think he should not concede?
That's NBC's Hallie Jackson reporting. Now, if the president is intent on delaying the inevitable, how long does he have? Here are a few key dates to keep in mind. States have various procedures to certify their results. The last deadline is December 1st. That's the deadline in the state of Wisconsin. On December 8th, the electors are appointed in the Electoral College. On the 14th, the Electoral College will meet from their respective states and cast their votes. 2 days before Christmas, those electoral votes go to the President of the Senate. That's the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence. And on January 6th, Congress will convene, formally count the official electoral votes, and declare a winner.
Okay, so there's the timeline of the election deadlines. Now, so a couple of big dates here are December 23rd and January 6th. As you see, on December 23rd, these electoral votes will be presented to Vice President Pence. And of course, Pence supports Trump. And then on January 6th, Congress will count these electoral votes and certify the new president of the United States. Now, this is where things might get a little messier. Now, are Republicans going to push back and not want to count these electoral votes or delay counting these electoral votes? There's going to be a lot of big news in January, guys, so we'll just have to wait and see.
For more on all of this, let's go to NBC White House correspondent and Weekend Today co-anchor Peter Alexander. Also with us is NBC News election analyst Rachel Cobb. She's an associate professor of political science and legal studies at Suffolk University. Good to see both of you. Peter, let me start with you. You've been doing some reporting about the president reaching out to election officials in Wayne County, Michigan. Detroit is the county seat of Wayne County. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, Joshua, let's start with Michigan broadly here. You saw in Hallie Jackson's piece a short time ago that there were 19 suits that the Trump campaign has either seen denied by a court, dismissed, or withdrawn. You can make it 20 now. The latest is a lawsuit that the Trump campaign says it withdrew earlier today. They claim that they achieved the relief they were looking for, that in Wayne County, the county had agreed not to certify.
Okay, guys, so as you see, Giuliani continues to say that these witnesses are enough evidence to prove voter fraud, and most judges continue to say that this is not enough. Whether or not you agree with this, 19 to 20 out of these 30 cases have already been thrown out, but we will have updates daily, so don't forget to subscribe for daily updates. Now, as far as a stimulus update, Biden continues to urge Congress to approve a package now, and he wants stimulus checks sent now. He wants this package approved immediately. He wants to send $1,200 stimulus checks now. He also wants to approve a $600 per week unemployment boost and a $200 monthly boost for those on Social Security. Guys, do you agree with this plan? Let me know in the comments below. In any case, Biden wants them to approve this now, but if they don't, he plans to do this as soon as he is in office. So we will have updates daily on whether or not this package is approved. So guys, don't forget to subscribe for updates. And if you made it this far into my video, thank you so much for supporting my channel. It really means the world to me, and I really do appreciate every single view. My thoughts truly do go out to each and every one of you during this hardship. I've had so many comments from people who truly deserve the help. And if you're watching this video, you're probably going through a difficult season in your life. Just know that you will get through this and you will be in a better place. Stay strong out there and keep taking steps towards a better tomorrow. Thanks again for watching and have a great day.